Anywho, any more out of this article? Let me look here what I've highlighted. Persistent inflation and rising yields have finally resulted in aggressive rhetoric and policy tightening from the Fed. And there was one last thing on the back. Investec's portfolio is now at the most defensive level since the early stages of the 2008-2009 crisis. And then he goes into the housing crisis. Do you want to take it from here?
Go ahead. You're kind of on a roll there with that.
So millions of Americans have been priced out of home ownership today as both home prices and mortgage rates have surged. To put today's affordability crisis in perspective, we compiled real-life examples of how housing affordability has varied since the peak of the 2005 housing bubble, which was the government created that. The government said, oh, everyone deserves a right to own a home. Let's throw a bunch of free money around and give people reduced taxes and reduced interest rates and everything to squeeze them into a house.
The worst part of it was the reduced qualification criteria.
Yeah. Yeah, your credit didn't have to be good. It was just the whole thing was the most idiotic thing
it was a bad idea.
I have ever seen. And so it blew up and caused the entire recession of 2008 and 9. This is what our government does. We got to get somebody smart in here and stop this crap. So homes had to be in cities that are in the Case-Shiller 20-city home price index. Homes had to have sold in 2005, which was the peak of the bubble. Let me see here. Homes had to have similar characteristics in terms of bedrooms, bathrooms, and square footage. The results show that in many places throughout the U.S., housing affordability is worse today than it was during 2005's housing bubble, thanks to the Federal Reserve's ultra-accommodative monetary policy, in addition to their purchase of trillions of dollars worth of mortgages, which was evil. Since the great financial crisis, a new and arguably bigger housing bubble is at risk of popping today.
And one of the things that this article shows is that, in different areas around... Hang on, we have a call.
Phone call. Would you like to buy an affordable home? Good morning. You're on with Sherri and Randy.
Hey, this is your favorite person.
Man, we can't hear you.
You're breaking up really bad.
This is your favorite person.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Call us back on a landline. It must sound like a cell phone.
Yeah, it was really garbly. Anyway, they looked at houses in Seattle, Phoenix, Tampa, San Diego, New York. And the thing is, the bottom line is that the lowest increase as percent of monthly income, housing is up 46%. And that is locking a lot of people out of buying a home. So Biden's new housing plan is to fire up house factories, basically. And the White House blueprint for boosting affordable housing calls for reviving production of mobile homes, backyard flats, and other manufactured units. California is enjoying a backyard revolution. Permits for casitas, or small house, granny flats, additions, and other accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, shot up tenfold after the state lawmakers passed a bill in 2017 legalizing them across the state. Oregon, Connecticut, and other states have done the same thing. The upshot of the state law is that local governments can't forbid property owners from building an ADU. As a result, companies in California have emerged to offer factory building secondary apartments, a low-cost option to another home
to add another
home to the property. And that was I think a critical word that they stuck in there, because it means that you have a house and you want to have a rental unit out behind it, and that's what you're going to do. So, but that's going to help.
This would be great for a lot of my clients if they could stick a tiny home in the backside of their house and rent it out and have increased cash flow. It would be great, but zoning is what I can't get my head around. Yes,
this is also something of a revival. Manufactured homes briefly dominated the U.S. housing market during the 60s. By 1972, these homes, not just mobile homes, but small-scale modular houses, accounted for some 60% of all new single-family homes produced nationwide, according to the census data. And this is what our lake house is. It is not a mobile home. It's a modular home.
Right.
It was built in two halves and brought in on a truck and set in place by a crane. And it's a great house. It's solid as a rock. The new housing plan by the White House offers a set of actions designed to close the nation's massive affordability gap. Among its proposals are steps that would, one, lower the cost for manufactured homes by expanding financing options, and two,
that concerns me right there.
Yep.
This is another.
This is
let's make this cheaper and easier for you to get into a house, and then you can't afford it 3 years later, and we have another housing downturn.
Right. And two, erase barriers around approvals and construction. One notorious regulation that could go up for review is a long-standing rule that the manufactured homes must be delivered on a chassis still attached.
Explain what that looks like.
A chassis, well, you have to think the difference between a modular home and a mobile home. A mobile home has two large I-beams that run from the front to the back, and there's wheels hooked to it. That is the chassis. And those are actually marked with the DOD.
But that doesn't stay on it when you set it up. You put it on a platform.
No, actually, the modular home you put on a platform. Okay, it comes in on a truck and they lift it off with a crane. A mobile home is pulled in by what they called in the business a toter. And
then you just stick a skirt around it?
Well, yeah, you can. Most people take the axles off, but the steel beams stay there. Okay, so, and then, if you wanted to move it down, sometime in the future, you could call the moving company, and they'd come out there and they would
roll it off.
And they would put the axles back on it and roll it out. I know this because
tell them your history.
My father was in this industry for years after Eastern Airlines went out of business, and he had a thriving business going in the mobile home industry, either towing them, setting them up, installing the air conditions. He was doing basically a turnkey job.
Tell them what you were doing.
And I was hauling concrete blocks.
At what age?
I think it was starting at 11. 10 or 11, and I was beat every day, so it was just fun because he would try to incentivize me to carry more than one brick at a time. These are those big, 8-inch cinder blocks, and so he would carry 4 at one time.
Wow.
Two in each hand, and then he'd put his fingers between the holes in them and pick them up, and of course, I'm like, I can barely lift this thing at that age.
And it's summer, like 100 degrees out.
Right, exactly. Anyway, what happened in this industry, though, is that people were setting up mobile homes next to somebody's stick-built house that was a very nice home, and it was dragging down the property values of the stick-built houses. And it was a big dispute between all the property owners, and municipalities started putting in rules into effect so that mobile homes could not be set up on just a lot. They had to be set up. They had to have 5 acres of land, but still, the mobile home and the manufactured home industry, because of the legislation that was put in place, because of the builders lobby, basically got regulations changed that, in essence, just made it so that it was not profitable for anybody to have one of these factories to either build a mobile home or a modular home. So, but this regulation that they're talking about here, what they're trying to do is to get it so that they can still have these ADUs, but they can be put in places that is not going to really affect the like a neighborhood. You don't want to pull one into a large stick-built community and park it beside your neighbors. So they're talking about ways to make it incentivize investment groups to have chunks of property like they used to call a mobile home park, but they're trying not to call them a mobile home park in this article.
I'll tell you what, if you got 10 acres and you don't have anything to do with it, I would seriously be looking at the tiny home thing, because this whole thing, you could get, it sounds to me like you're going to subsidize it and offer very low-rate loans.
That's exactly what they're trying to do.
It says the White House announced that Freddie Mac will consider the feasibility of purchasing these loans with the hopes of supporting more market activity and bringing down interest rates. Both Fannie and Freddie are looking at more creative financing solutions to give low-income buyers and renters access. So it smells to me like 2008, but then again, there might be an opportunity for somebody out there.
But here's the thing about this, and I like this actually. The Urban Institute estimates that the increase in the share of U.S. homes with ADUs from 1.6 to 3% over the next 5 years would deliver nearly 1.2 million new housing units. That would go a long way towards building the 7 million rental units needed to close the affordability gap. And I will say this, that everyone strives to get one up on the rung, on the ladder in life, right? And if they can get these things where they can be affordable, they can make it so that they have good lending regulations to support them, it'll go a long way to helping people get to the next rung on that ladder.
Very good. So, do you want to talk about this next article? Because I didn't really.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes in line with what we were just talking about. The Fed's nominee Michael Barr supports rewriting lending rules, and basically he is Biden's pick to become the government's most influential bank regulator, and his goal is to overhaul the lending so that more people can get home loans. Now, this goes back to what you were saying before, that
they shouldn't go too far.
They shouldn't go too far. You still have to make sure someone's got
credit,
the financial wherewithal. You're right. To make the payment, because a lot of people do not understand how costly owning a home, I don't care what size it is compared to renting. But hang on. But one of the things that he wants to do is he wants to eliminate redlining, and basically what that means is that it's the practice of avoiding lending in certain areas, often lower income communities and such, and that is a form of discrimination, and I think that should be changed. So may he do the right thing in all of his changes.
Good luck with that.
Right.
So let me tell you what happened when I was working at Consumer Credit Counseling Service, and I've been with Steve 18, and then I was 10 years with insurance, and I was 10 years. I think I got out of there
It was in the mid-'90s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, I was at Consumer Credit Counseling Service. I was the vice president of counseling and education, and so we were approached by SunTrust. So what we did is I had 108 financial counselors that reported to me, and they would each see 5 people a day, and we had prearranged agreements with creditors so that if somebody came in with a list of debt, we could plug it into our computer and say, okay, we can reduce your monthly payment to X. They will reduce your interest rates to X. We can get you out of debt in 3 years. Yes, it's going to affect your credit, but you're not going to file bankruptcy. And that's what we did all day long. Mm-hmm. And I did seminars, and I was a wild person back then.
And a lot of those people fell into the subprime category. They had what's their score? Their credit score was below 620.
Right.
And they were trying to get them smart by sending them off to education classes and such. They had to have that before they had to have your counseling before they could get the loan, right?
You had to go through us. We had to approve you, and you had to verify that you could afford the minimum payment to pay all of your payments. So this was Consumer Credit Counseling Service that is now GreenPath. Thank you so much. But anyways, so we were approached this is about the last year I was there, because I was getting really burned out because I was working a ton of hours and driving back and in and out of Atlanta and just exhausted, and doing seminars all over Atlanta on educating people about money management and such. And we were approached by SunTrust Bank, and I will never forget this, because the government had shoved all this money into Fannie and Freddie. In fact, one of our guys left and went to Fannie Mae, and he became a big shot in Fannie Mae because they were throwing money around like it was water. And so SunTrust comes to us, and they said, we need to do an agreement with you where we refer our customers to you, and you provide them with 3 months of financial counseling, and you verify that they can afford to buy a house. And so 2 of my counselors I converted to housing counselors, and SunTrust started sending people over to us. And so I have these counselors, and they meet with a person, and they make them track their spending for a month, and then they have to come in the next month and show, here's where my money went, and they only had to have 3 months of financial counseling before they were approved for the mortgage.
Right.
And my financial counselors and the housing counseling division of these 2 people came to me almost daily and said, these people can't afford a lawnmower.
That's right.
And they're going to get a mortgage, and they're getting tax abatement, and they're getting reduced interest, and they're getting reduced payments, which all increase over the next 3 years, believing, their income's going to go up, and then they'll be able to handle it.
And they're trying to...
This is the fairy dust crap.
Right. And they were trying to send them to 3 months of counseling and to change a lifetime of bad habits.
Yes, it doesn't work like that.
It does not work like that.
Because you can write anything on a sheet of paper. They didn't have to have a printout or receipts or a bank statement or nothing. It was literally, you fill out a piece of paper, here's what I spent this month, and you get approved after 3 months to buy a house with all of these deals. And they were renovating all these houses in Atlanta that they were shoving all these people into with these reduced rates, reduced taxes, reduced payments. And I'm looking at this, we're all looking at this going, this is a disaster. And it blew up.
and I misspoke a while ago. I said subprime is 620 or lower at 600. But Sherri, we've got another article here that talks about the subprime borrowers, and they're beginning to miss loan payments. And we're not going to get into this article because it's getting late in the show. But you take what's going on with an increased delinquency rate just on credit cards and cars, and yet they're trying to throw housing and change the housing loan requirements to allow more subprime. This is going to be another debacle.
Meanwhile, prices of everything are going up, including gas. And so just to get to work and back is costing you more money.
That's right.
So it doesn't matter that you got squeezed into a loan to get a car, you squeezed into a loan to get a new TV or whatever it is you did during COVID.
That's traditionally been the way the loan process has gone. What's your debt to income ratio? Well, you can go up to 42% of total debt, and that must include your house. Well, that's based off your gross pay. When we were doing it back in the day when I was in real estate, and those numbers, when you start pushing people to the high end of their debt to income ratios, you really start putting people into a crack because, as you mentioned a while ago, they couldn't afford a lawnmower, they couldn't afford the curtains to go in the window. We have seen people who bought the biggest house they could get, and then they had no furniture in it. I mean, they had
my guy,
kitchen table, and that's it.
The Aflac guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, back when I was at Aflac, I was a manager after a year.
Oh, yeah.
And we had one of my agents had us over because his baby passed away and had a big deal at his house. And we show up at his big mansion-y house, and he's got a big expensive car to look like he's somebody, and there's no furniture in the whole house.
Well, that's what they were preaching, too. Go get a big SUV because then you could get a $15,000 tax credit for owning the big SUV.
Because you get a deduction.
That's right. And they were giving you a credit for that car.
There's always an unintended consequence. Every time the government gives away money, there's an unintended consequence that they don't ever see, and I don't get it because we've been at this a long time.
Yep. Because, just take a look at the amount of money the government's thrown at people. They didn't stop it soon enough. And so then people have all this money, and they're
cash flow.
And they want to spend it, so they're going out and buying stuff, so the demand is up.
And now it's all coming down.
And now it's coming down, and this is causing the inflation. It's all this rampant spending, so the Fed's going to have to use their blunt tool to hammer out supply somehow by raising interest rates.
So the people that thought they were getting all this help and thought everything was all glorious and wonderful while they were getting all these unemployment checks and all these whatever this spending, what are those checks called? Stimulus checks. And they got all these stimulus checks and all this extra unemployment and all of this free everything and discounted everything and everything was so great. Mm-hmm. It's crashing to a halt. It's going to be very interesting to see how this affects the election in the fall. That's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to have a big impact.
I think we're going to have a big impact.
Anyways.
All right.
Good grief.
I know.
So, anyways, was there anything more about this subprime article that you want to talk about? No. So here's one last thing. We didn't get to our main article, which I hate because it was really good and all this other stuff kind of got ahead of us. Here's what Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's tell us about the state of the American consumer. How well is the American consumer holding up against sky-high inflation? It depends on who you ask. Walmart, Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's reported quarterly financial results this week, and I already talked about that. And they offered a different perspective on where and how people are spending their money. Walmart says some of its more price-sensitive customers are beginning to trade down to private label brands, while Home Depot emphasized the resiliency among its customer base, but their stock was down. Expectations on Wall Street are higher this week for both Walmart and Target. Analysts and investors didn't anticipate the two big box retailers would take such a massive hit in their profits. This is the interesting part. Let me see. Supply chain costs weighed on sales and unwanted inventory, such as TVs and kitchen appliances. They are piling up. So people don't want that anymore, and now there's finally a supply. So if you need some appliances, now's the time to go, because they're going to be on sale because they have too much. And let me see, what was the other thing?
What it is now, because inflation's so high, we read an article this week where the average American is spending $5,000 a year on gas now.
Right.
And so people are beginning to say, you know what, that dishwasher, it's not good, but it still works. And plus, I can use a bottle in the sink.
Right.
So they're delaying the larger purchases, and so they can make their rent and buy food.
The results this week could foreshadow trouble for a number of retailers, including Macy's, Kohl's, Nordstrom, and Gap, which have yet to report results, which we talked about Gap already. Walmart hinted shoppers were beginning to pull back on discretionary items to budget more money toward groceries. Mm-hmm. At the same time, retailers are citing an uptick in demand for items such as luggage, dresses, and makeup as people are going on vacation and weddings. It's just so crazy.
Right. But they said that Home Depot and Lowe's, their numbers were not as bad, but they're seeing that their clients are a little more resilient. The average ticket price with Home Depot climbed 11.4% in the last quarter, but that could be just because of inflation. But people are changing over from gas-powered stuff to electricity.
I was reading that this morning about the electric lawnmower for $400.
So, yep, and Lowe's is having the same issues. They're not. They're having supply chain issues, but they and Home Depot are better managing it than some of the big box retailers like Home Depot. I mean, like Walmart and Target.
All righty, so we're at the end of the show. You've been listening to Randy and Sherri Goss ranting our brains out. We're with Rosenberg Financial Group. We have offices in Macon and Warner Robins. The main things we do as financial advisors is provide retirement planning advice and manage our clients' investment accounts. If you can't listen live, you can always listen on our website, retirerelax.com. Listen to the recordings and check out our special reports. So we offer complimentary consultations to help you plan for a successful retirement, and we also provide educational seminars in the community. So call us at the office if you're interested in having us speak to your group. Number is 478-922-8100. And if you'd like an appointment and you'd rather email us at support@rfmoney.com. So, did you want to say anything about this last article that we have 30 seconds for? Nope. You're good? So, we have a white paper on inflation and investing. We need to get into that next week. I mean, I thought we were going to get there. I didn't realize we had so much other material to cover. So, sorry about that. But anyways, we'll get to that next week. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend and gets outside.
Actually, it won't be next week, Sherri. We're going to be doing a pre-recorded show.
That's right.
So we will see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. Well, good. Yeah, so we're all going to be out of town. Becca was out sick today, so prayers to Becca that she feels better today. And I hope everybody has a great weekend.
And Bobby, good luck with your yard sale.
Yay.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. No strategy can assure a profit against loss. Rosenberg Financial Group is located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, Georgia 31088, and can be reached at 478-922-8100.